5:30 p.m. and I am calling to order this regular meeting of the Fargo Board of Education. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join us. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will look for approval of our agenda. Kristen?
Yep. I move approval of the agenda and move item 6E to the business section.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion from Kristen to approve the agenda and move item 6E to business, which would be 7D. And we have a second from Namal. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposition, same sign. Okay, motion passes. And next we have our recognition of audience. At this time, the board will hear comments from the public. We ask that each speaker who has signed up to address the board state their name and home school district for the record. We also ask that speakers refrain from using this forum to criticize or complain about a specific employee or student. Vulgar or profane language will not be tolerated. The board is interested in your comments and will listen carefully, but is not obligated to respond to or debate issues in this forum. This evening, 4 speakers have signed up to address the board. Each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. Upon conclusion of the allotted time, a chime will sound and the speaker is asked to conclude. If necessary, a final chime will sound 15 seconds later, signifying the end of the speaker's time at the podium. Our first speaker this evening is Joseph Kennedy.
Thanks, Steve. Good evening. My name is Joseph Kennedy. I live in South Fargo in the Fargo School District. All 4 of my children went through FPS. I am a lifelong educator and an advocate for public education. Tonight, I implore you to leave the FPS philosophies in place. Our LGBTQA+ students are among the most vulnerable students in the district, along with our students with disabilities, especially with rhetoric from the White House claiming that recognizing a child's preferred name is child abuse and that children with autism destroy families. These children face intense trauma. In 2022, the National Institute for Healthcare Management reported that our LGBTQ+ students are 3 times more likely than their peers to attempt suicide. The National Institutes of Health found the next year that student outcomes for students with disabilities are only likely to improve when systemic change occurs and implicit cultural bias is reduced. And please note, these are not students who are affected by Title VI necessarily. Title VI prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin. Title VI is not Title IX. The lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer questioning, intersex, asexual, and two-spirit rights philosophy in no way contradicts Title VI, nor the Harvard decision, nor does the Honesty in Education statement, nor the statement regarding disability rights. By being asked to repudiate FPS philosophies because of Title VI, you are being asked to consent to hypothetical, proactive capitulation. But Fargo Public School District is a forward-looking and excellent school district. It is the oldest in the state with a proud history of teaching our students facts and civic education. Executive orders are not law. Many of the executive orders from this president have been litigated and found unconstitutional, overreaching, or otherwise not appropriate by judges who were appointed by 7 presidents from different parties. What example do we set if we do not follow the full rule of law? What are we teaching our students? Finally, if we believe, as I do, that local districts know the needs of our children best, we cannot and must not acquiesce to a governing style that relies on bullying and bluster to impose the views of people who've never met a single one of our students on them. Tyrants gain and keep power only when good people allow them. Every one of you is a board member because you care about children. In my mind, that makes you good. And perhaps, like Frodo in Lord of the Rings, you wish this need not have happened in our time. But it has. And now you are the ones faced with many hard and even nonsensical choices. There's not a single advantage to removing the FPS philosophies from the website in toto without considering them individually, nor to sunsetting them. Please continue to honor these philosophies. Please continue to support our most vulnerable children.
Thank you, Joe. Our next speaker is Cheryl Rostad.
Hi, I am Cheryl Rosted, and I live in South Fargo, 52nd Avenue South. Haven't had a kid in school since 2015, but I have volunteered in the public schools for the last 36 years, and it is a pleasure to do so. I want to say that I went to school in public schools in the 60s and graduated in 1973. And the older I get, and the more I read, the more I realize I was duped. I was duped in the fact that people didn't recognize all that was going on in the world then, as is now, and weren't going to tell me about it, or they were going to tell me falsehoods about it. So my history classes, I have to say, were all pretty well whitewashed, and I didn't learn that much from them. I've learned now as I got older. What I guess I'm trying to say, because I'm not very good at this and I feel like I've just been sent to the principal's office, but I do thank you all for doing this job, because it's an awesome job and it's a huge responsibility. But our kids deserve to be proud of their public school, and Fargo Public Schools is a school district to be proud of. And I think that keeping the philosophies on the website seems simple, but it's not, because it means that you guys are willing to stand up for the rights of all kinds of people. We don't sound the same, we don't look the same, we come from different cultures, we come from different backgrounds. But hiding that, putting it under the rock, doesn't change that it actually is the way it is. We need truth in education, we need to love these children and know that they deserve better. I deserved better, and they deserve better, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Cheryl, for your comments. Next up, we have Peggy Stenjum-Titan. I'm not sure if I said that right.
You're close.
Close? Okay, close enough. Thanks.
Thank you for this opportunity to address the board. My name is Peggy Stenjum-Titus, and I reside in Fargo, North Dakota. It's my understanding as we sit here tonight that an attorney for the Fargo School Board is recommending that the board remove its list of district philosophies addressing the rights of select groups of people, to include LGBTQ plus and Two-Spirit, disability rights, justice for people with impairments, and restorative practices in the school. This apparently is to be done either in response to or in anticipation of executive orders by the president. My question is, are we removing these district philosophies because we as a district no longer hold these philosophies to be important, defining aspects of our educational system? Does the Fargo public school system no longer remain, and this is a quote from the website, steadfast in its commitment to foster an inclusive, culturally relevant, and responsive educational environment where each person is treated with dignity and respect? Do we no longer believe that, quote, Fargo Public Schools is a safe space for its students, meaning the district is a place for students to learn, thrive, and seek assistance, information, and support free from discrimination, harassment, and bullying? Do we no longer believe that, quote, Fargo Public Schools prohibits discrimination against all persons, whether student, district employee, family, or community member, on the basis of disability, impairment, or other intersecting identity? Or are we simply turning our backs on the core philosophies we identified and affirmed by a vote of the Fargo School Board in an effort to acquiesce to a bully, directing us to deny and turn our backs on our core beliefs? I can appreciate the struggle that the board faces. I know that sometimes it comes down to funding and things like that. But the reality is we are at a place in history where we need to decide if it is more important to stand up to the bully or to lay down and walk away from what we believe. It is my hope that the Fargo School Board will stand up and set in motion a movement toward regaining local control of our schools and honoring our students by continuing to follow the district's philosophies as it applies to addressing the rights of select groups of people, to include the LGBTQ, two-spirit, disability rights, justice for people with impairments, and restorative practices in school. If not us, who? If not now, when? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peggy. And our next speaker is Susan Clark.
Hello, my name's Susan Clark. I live in Lake Park, Minnesota, but I'm a proud teacher at Ed Clapp Elementary here in Fargo. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. The term philosophy, as it pertains to this meeting, is a theory or attitude held by a person or organization that acts as a guiding principle for behavior. The FPS philosophies were developed for this purpose, as our current website explains. I quote, "FPS philosophies are necessary to clearly communicate our approach to education. These philosophies demonstrate who we are and what we believe in. The strategic plan outlines what we do and results we will achieve. Additionally, these philosophies serve as our organizational commitment to support inclusive practices in education and academic freedom." So what does it mean if we sunset or choose to stop sharing our philosophies? Does that mean those are no longer our guiding principles? Does it mean we no longer wish to ensure we address the needs of gender and sexual minority students or persons with disabilities or impairments? Does it mean we no longer need to teach truth? Does it mean we no longer believe that individuals who have committed harm can and should take full responsibility for their behavior? The answer to those questions are for you, the board, to ponder. But for me, as a past member of the Fargo Public Schools Parent Equity and Advisory Committee for Education, the Peace Committee, who was consulted on the creation of these philosophies, as a teacher who has spent 37 years working with diverse and often marginalized populations, as a parent who has always tried to teach my children about strength of character, I believe you don't just stop believing in what is right when times get tough. Rather, you stand up a little taller and speak ever more loudly about what you believe to be is the right thing to do. I urge you to be thorough in your thoughts and discussions of the proposed removal of the FPS philosophy statements. I urge you not to be rash. Talk to those who put these statements into action each day in our schools. Talk to those groups who helped in their creation. Confer with the incoming superintendent and groups who may be impacted by such changes. And really consider, what are the guiding principles we, as the Fargo Public Schools, believe in and will stand up tall to support?
Okay, thank you, Susan, for your comments. Next, we are moving into the report section, and first up, we have our FEA report, and I see Laura is here.
Here beginneth the book of the tales of Count de Bury. I'm not kidding. When that opera with the shore of Sota, the drought of March hath pierced to the rota. This beginning of Canterbury Tales, Geoffrey Chaucer is talking about halfway through March. The showers have gotten rid of March's drought. We're still looking for that here. And nature is coming back to life again. And everybody is so delighted. This is the time that folk longing to go on pilgrimages. I memorized it in college. I'm going to use it every chance I get, okay? It's not just the relief of surviving winter. It is literal and figurative. Winter and death are over. And my favorite characters of all in this first 18 lines are the little chirping birds that sleep all night with their eyes open because they're so touched in their hearts. They're so excited about the world coming alive again. And I think about my seniors especially as they're entering this next stage of their life. I don't think they close their eyes at night. They're running all over. They have so much going on because there's nothing but the future in front of them. There's nothing but nature doing what it's supposed to do. They're touched in their garages. We all need an energy boost this time of year. We have such important things to take care of, and we want to do well taking care of all these things. So I went through my calendar the other day just thinking, okay, all these things. Tomorrow is William Shakespeare's birthday, 461 for those of you keeping track. Our third negotiations meeting with the board is tomorrow. It is survey season. Kids and adult and climate and culture and risk behavior, all the surveys coming out. North Dakota state assessments. This one counts kids and AP exams. This isn't a school thing, but it's a very real deadline. The real ID is May 7th. Mark that down if you haven't yet. Prom season, grad cards, big projects, spring fever, awards ceremonies, athletic and academic, at all sorts of different milestones at elementary, middle school, high school. We have clap outs, hall walks, stage walks, elementary send-offs, field days, programs, retirements, graduations. Virtual Academy has 70 graduates this year. That's a record number. Let's see. The North Dakota United Delegate Assembly happened earlier this month. We had FEA Executive Board elections. You got me for 2 more years. I have not seen any robins yet. I have 2 events I'd like you to put on your calendars. On April 28th, at the FM Labor Hall, there's an International Workers Memorial. There's a short ceremony and a couple speakers. April 28th, 5 p.m. And on May 10th, it's a Saturday from 9 to 11 a.m. There's a post-session wrap-up with local legislators happening at South High. I can give you room number information or send you the flyer, let me know. So there's so much going on, and it's all just as important as the last thing. There's some way too fine a line between anxiety and excitement, and it's too much to keep up on all of it. So choose where you spend your energy, where you find your energy, and sleep with your eyes open.
Thank you, Laura. Next up, we have our legislative update from Robin.
Thank you. I am trying to keep up as the days progress here. I did promise the board in advance to give a legislative timeline update. We are on day 67 of 80 of gaveling in. That's an important distinction. We only count those days if they choose to indeed gavel in. I would expect, well, they typically try to save 5 to 10 days for interim work. That has become pretty apparent that will be needed just due to some of the federal things coming down. There are 122 bills remaining and 425 have been signed by the governor. Status on 2354 and 1160, also known as the bathroom bills. I'm going to shift through my stuff here. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, let's go back to that. 2354, 1160 are the cell phone bills. Okay, see, this is so hard to keep straight. Okay, 1160 has been signed. 2354 is, if it's signed after 1160, it will usurp 1160. So stay tuned for that. Some of the changes that we have been watching closely through committee, 2354, which is Axman's bill, that has been amended to stored and not locked in lockers, which is a big difference. And then data collection section has moved to some more practical implementation. The committee that is currently working on that is Jim Jonas out of West Fargo, Anna Novak out of, west of Bismarck, and Osowski. It is pretty inevitable we'll have some type of bell-to-bell cell phone prohibition. So stay tuned. Administration is going to have a lot of policies to write after this session. Okay, today's activity. I was making notes before I came here. The House floor, 2400, which is the ESA bill with prime sponsor Michelle Axman, was scheduled on the floor today. It passed out of the sixth order session, but all the discussion was just stopped before it got to deliberation. And I think that was on purpose. 1540, which is the House version of what is now I call a voucher bill that serves only private school students. There was a motion on the floor to reconsider, and it failed 43 to 51. So I can't tell you any more than what I told you prior to today starting. Word is that 2400 is being held back, and they're working on flipping votes behind the scenes by withholding that. To other today activities, 1144, the bathroom facilities. I watched that today in conference committee. It was a lot of technicalities that I could not follow. So we're just going to have to stay tuned on that. Let's see here, 1176, property tax conference committee will be heard multiple times throughout this week. That will affect our school district with excess mill levies, excess mill levy votes, also some companion bills in there about building referendum votes. So we are really held at the mercy right now of our state legislature. And I will add that there are a lot of bills that have been written in response to Fargo Public Schools, very overt stances on some socially perceived divisive issues. And there is a lot of legislation that is written against Fargo. I respect everybody's comments in the audience. I need to weigh how overtly we want to continue to put those out there versus funding cuts that are inevitable, and what is best for our children and our district. And this is a tough decision because I have completely defended and earnestly defended all children all the time in my job and my career. And I need to make some tough decisions tonight that I'm sure will be scrutinized. But I'll stop there because I could go on and on about the legislative session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Next, we have our administrative report. Dr. Gandhi, do you have anything to share outside the standard of effort?
No, I was just going to lead into the standard of effort report tonight. I'll hand it over to Jackie to walk us through the standard of effort report, but I just wanted to provide, again, a little bit of a context. This is a report that we do provide to the board almost on an annual basis, and I want to extend my gratitude to the planning committee that really worked hard this year to take a look at what are those data points that we want to see in that standard of effort report and kind of work through that revision. I wanted to introduce it today with just some context. I think this timing for our standard of effort report is fantastic because it leads into what you're going to be receiving in upcoming board meetings for our strategic and operational plan for next year. But I also wanted to just talk about, from my perspective, how this report is best utilized by board and decision makers within our organization. It's easy to look at the comparative districts and look at each metric that's on the standard of effort report in isolation of how we compare to other districts. But I think the purpose of this report and where we would benefit most as a system is to really take a look at the data that the report provides about our system from a macro level, and specifically around the allocation of resources. So I encourage you to look at the standard of effort report in context with the strategic and operational plan that will be brought to you to approve, and truly take a look at, is our standard of effort giving the results that we want within our organization? And oftentimes within education, we have a million data points. It's so easy to compare school districts to other districts, but being able to take a look at that from a macro level and saying, our results and our resources giving us the actual outcomes that we want, is a better perspective to it. I mean, I think in this report alone, you'll see that one school district that is a comparison school district spends almost 10% of their per pupil allocation on just student transportation. When you look at our operational costs, when it's broken down by student, or even our student activities costs, you'll see that that could be upwards of $200 to $300 per difference per school district per student. That's a significant amount of money. So think about the fact that, like, if we decide to not invest in those resources, those experiences for students, we could reallocate those dollars for other pieces too. So whenever we compare how school districts are measured against one another, I think it's always important to define success by, are you achieving the outcomes that are important to you in your local context, in your community? That's why we have locally elected school boards versus just picking one data point, because the district levels of investment could be very different towards that outcome that you want. And I think that's why it's really important to use that context for that standard of effort report and really drive the work as we continue going down the path of our strategic alignment and system thinking work, and we develop our measures for next year through our strategic and operational plan. So with that being said, I will hand it over to Jackie to walk us through.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gandhi. That was a very good way, I think, to make sure when you're looking at the numbers, right, because this report isn't often about numbers, to take it in the context as a whole when you're looking at it as well. Would like to remind you that what we did for this year, and now my scroll bar isn't going to work very well, so I apologize for anyone watching me go crazy on the screen. We revamped the report a little bit, which went through the committee process as well, and we have decided this year to add Moorhead Public Schools. Would also want to let you know that this is for fiscal 2024. This report is always a year behind, just from when we can get the data from the state. And Moorhead Public Schools was more than generous in helping provide the information that they submitted, as it's not readily available in the same format as our North Dakota districts. I think the first thing to point out in the report is the average daily membership of the districts that are being compared. There is some fluctuation in which has a play as well in some of the calculations, because it is based on that ADM often, or per pupil payment, as we calculate in the report. Fargo in 2023 was number 3 in the state, behind Bismarck and West Fargo. And I think the next probably important piece to take a peek at really is the student ratios. We did add this to the report this year, and I think we often want to know where class sizes stand. And in this calculation, you are able to just get a glimpse into where schools are based on elementary and secondary for what data was provided. Then, I'm not going to go through everything in the report. We are still, I would say, behind in obtaining school psychs and counselors. And the last piece I was going to just, Dr. Gandhi kind of mentioned transportation, and so that's an area we look at frequently. And as it varies greatly among districts for what is transported, walkouts, and programs. And so I think this is an important area for us to look at as we move forward as well. The next item would be extracurricular expenditures. And you can see here where we lie among the districts, and I would say kind of in the middle a little bit. Bismarck is spending a little bit more than we are per pupil on those services. And fund balance is the other thing we often look at as well. And so it is recommended that we have a little over 2 months of operating expenditures in our fund balance, where we are sitting kind of right along that line where we are currently. And that calculation, of course, changes every year depending on what our budget is. And in 2024, the district still had COVID money as well to spend. So sometimes that can, in those years, our expenditures were inflated due to those additional funding sources. And then lastly, the last section that we have is related to special education. And here would just like to point out, we have the child count, and so you can see where districts sit with the number of special services children that are reported to the state. And this is done in December of every year. And the last thing with special education is it is not fully funded. And so we do rely heavily on our taxpayers in the area to help support the services that our students need. I would then pause and see if anyone has any specific questions on the report.
Greg?
I have a super easy one for you first. On page 4, I was wondering for some clarity on the pie chart. The colors in the key don't match. Could you clarify which piece is what?
I will clarify that. Thank you for pointing that out. I think to get this to fit on the page, I had to snippet pictures instead of actually copying and pasting correctly. And so we are comparing our statistics, and this is in the revenue side. And so you will see that federal would be the green portion, that is the smallest portion. And then for us, the 52% would represent what we receive from the state and the 35% from our local taxpayers. I will get that corrected before we post it.
Robin, do you have a question or comment?
Probably more of a comment. Fargo is a magnet for special ed and ELL students, just due to the services that are provided. Our state legislature did not add any dollars that into the SPED formula nor ELL, even though that they upped the per pupil payment to 3%. So we are always going to be disproportionate in this area in Fargo.
Okay, thanks for that context. Yeah, Greg?
On page 5, the student-teacher ratio stuff, this one, I don't know the answer to my question before I ask it. In the tables for elementary and secondary students, Grand Forks has the lowest student-teacher ratio in both tables. But on the graph, somehow Fargo still has a lower student-teacher ratio, and I'm wondering if the graph and the tables were calculated different, or if there was some transposition or something.
They are calculated differently. For the table or the chart at the top, that is coming directly from information from DPI that is on their website. For the ratios at the bottom, I relied on the districts to tell me how many elementary teachers and how many secondary teachers. So that would most likely account for the discrepancy.
Thank you. This board is no stranger to interesting ways to define teacher. And with that, that's the end of my questions.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions for Jackie so far? Okay. Is that the end, or are you still going?
That's the end.
Oh, okay, cool. So are we good? Okay, thank you so much, Jackie and Greg, for putting that together and kind of revamping it and providing us with some a new way to look at this information this year. Where are we? Okay, consent agenda. Okay, so I will look for approval of the consent agenda. Robin?
I move approval of the consent agenda as amended with the human capital actions.
Second.
We don't have any human capital. Well, you mean extras?
Oh, so sorry.
It's okay. Okay, so we have a motion, and who is the second?
I was.
Nikki, any discussion? No? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposition, same sign. That motion passes 9-0. And next, that takes us to our business. Item A is the engagement and experience in co-curricular activities monitoring, and I will turn to Dr. Gandhi to introduce us to that.
Thank you. In your board packets, you have the results monitoring report for Strategic Initiative 3, Engagement and Experience in Co-curricular Activities and Monitoring. We also have Todd Olson here today to answer any questions that you may have. I just wanted to share just a quick anecdote. I have a niece that starts middle school next year, and been providing a lot of counsel to my sister and brother-in-law on just she's in a very fortunate situation in California to be able to pick which middle school to go to and what are the factors that you should look at. And we've been talking a lot about where students feel comfortable and a sense of belonging and so forth. Because they were talking about playing time for activities and how much student time gets and so forth. And that conversation just led to like, how do you measure things the right way and those experiences for students when picking a school? And I was asked a very profound question that I was able to answer very easily. And I just want to commend Todd and his team for the work that they do, which was, how do you measure student experiences in a meaningful way to show that your system is effective? And I was able to answer that question in within 15 seconds and say, well, we actually have 13 measures in our strategic plan related to student activities. And it's not just about playing time. It's actually about the percentage of secondary students that are connected to a school because of their social capital index and that reducing at-risk youth behavior, but also being able to say for each one of our activities, our board at the highest level measures within our organization whether students are better teammates, whether or not they have a higher GPA, whether or not they're building team building skills and character skills. And to show a litany of 7 years worth of data that we've been collecting and reporting on this, I think is just another example of how tight we are in our alignment work, but also just focusing on the right experiences that we want for our kids. So I just wanted to use that quick anecdote to introduce our student activities report because I hear Todd talk often to different groups about almost everyone has a memorable experience in regarding student activities, but you'd be surprised how good of a job we do with our resource allocation within our organization too, for the experiences kids have coming out of that. And what we're able to do in Fargo, I think is just a great experience for all of our students. So with that being said, I will hand it over to Todd for our Strategic Initiative 3.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. Thank you for giving a good part of my report. No, we've had a good year in activities and the 13 things that we do track, you can see those for yourself in there and we're on target for our goals on each one of them. Very proud of that. Some of our information is incomplete yet because we haven't finished up all our year-long activities. We haven't finished up our spring sports. We haven't got to the end of the school year to get the overall cumulative GPA of those various groups. And only one season of Team Scholar Awards is done at this point because we need the semester 2 grades to get to that point. So I am fairly confident we're going to reach our goals in each of those areas. Along with, if you notice, the last 3 goals are Kathy from Trollwood's goals, and she's on track to reach those. And she's on a little bit different cycle since they do everything in the summer that she measures. So those would be from last summer's results, and we'll have new results for this summer. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions or comments? Robin?
I have to comment on the higher GPA for 3.0. Let's see here. GPA students participating in co-curricular activities, 3.27. GPA of non-participants, 2.47. That's always been very important to me. And 40 years ago, I was in high school, and I think that still rang true back then.
I would agree.
Any other questions or comments? Greg?
I echo that sentiment. I think it is kind of a wonderful hallmark of our activities that those who participate, and we have a high participation rate, tend to have more success in the classroom. Higher GPA, right? I don't think GPA is part of one of the measures, but other measures kind of point to that, right? Like character, citizenship, being a better student, that's self-evaluation, but those types of things are related to access to participating in an activity, not necessarily relating to their success in that activity, but participation in and of itself has value.
Yeah,
And
I would
that's
echo
really
that.
the
It's,
root of
oh, go ahead.
11 years ago when I put these things together. I wanted to get away from wins and losses as being how we define participation in activity. And came up with some good things for that strategic plan with Dr. Schatz, and they've really held pretty solid for the last 11 years. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to echo what Greg said. It's pretty amazing to look and see that, I mean, it looks like almost every measure, well over 90% of the participants feel safe, they feel connected. And I think that just says a lot for their sense of belonging in our buildings and our activities.
We have a lot of good people that make kids feel that way about their participation in activities.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, we need a recommendation, don't we? Probably should have done that a little while ago. Go ahead, Namal. Can you turn on your mic, please? Yeah. You can say move to accept or recommend to accept.
We recommend to accept the reasonable progress has been made on SI-3 for 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Namal and a second from Greg. Any discussion within the board? Okay, let's go ahead and do the roll call.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Bolenberger,
Yes.
Berglund,
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes, motion passes 9-0. All right, and next we get to talk about community outreach and communications monitoring, and so I'll turn this back over to Dr. Gandhi.
Yeah, also just again, no anecdote here, but just again, want to give my kudos to all of our teams are involved in Strategic Initiative 4, primarily our communications team, but also some efforts from Human Capital and Teaching and Learning Department as well. I think one of the reasons why I'm really grateful for our system and how we monitor reasonable progress is we are able to show not only the alignment of our actions, but also when we have to maintain what is truly a strategic priority given unusual circumstances. And our communications department is often the first one to have to pivot because of just unexpected circumstances. This year, leading a superintendent search was one of those pieces. You know, obviously, they will be setting goals for next year in our strategic unified and operational plan, but should the district have to pursue community engagement for some of the financial decisions that we have to make or explore for our facilities, then that's going to take a big portion of their work as well. And that's why we have the strategic plan developed the way we do and how we measure reasonable progress the way we do as well. So I will hand it over to Anne Marie to answer any questions or offer any insights that she can, but just again, incredibly proud of our communications department and the other departments in Strategic Initiative 4.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. So memo 101 is in front of you, full of information on measures. Dr. Jonas is here as well in case you have any questions particular to her sections, or Bob can answer some as well. But any to all of the measures are on track for progress. So we'd stand for any questions you would have that are particular to what is in your report.
Robin?
I move that we accept that reasonable progress has been made on RSI-4 for the 2024-2025 school year.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Robin and a second from Nikki. Any discussion or questions? Greg?
I think this would be a question for Bob. On page 4, we have a table that shows the attendance rates for parent-teacher conferences. Why are attendance rates so much worse in the spring than the fall? I mean, honestly, like if it wasn't for the fall, I'd be fairly concerned. Just curious.
I think that's the exact same question the principals are asking their teachers as well, as they are talking different ways to encourage families to come to parent-teacher conferences. We have conversations across the district right now Should we move to more student-based or student-led conferences? Should there be direct invites to parents? So all of the questions that I have swirling in my mind are happening in the buildings right now. To look at that data set and say, how do we get more of our parents and our staff together? And how do we talk about where their students are at to help them be even more successful? So I don't have the answer, but I know that those same questions are being analyzed and talked about at our buildings.
Go ahead.
Quick follow-up to that. The middle schools are particularly different. You know, the South, North, Davies numbers are fairly similar, but wow, what a stark difference between our three middle schools. Has there been any conversations about what's going on there?
I think if you look at the difference between the three middle schools, you'll see one has a higher percentage than the other two. That middle school does do student-led conferences where the student is actively involved in those conversations. So that's why those conversations are now spilling over to the other buildings to say, how can we learn and grow together as a system to move this data in the right direction?
Okay, thanks. Ally?
I too have some questions around conferences. So just looking at some of the ones that I guess I would say have gotten backwards, so where their participation was greater in the 23-24 to comparatively, do we have plans in place in helping those principals drive attendance and things like that, and any insights into, you know, what we could expect out of those plans being in place?
I can certainly answer some of that. The two different data charts are divided between elementary and secondary. The ones that show the comparative are more at the elementary level. Missy Eidsness certainly has had those conversations
Missy's not here, so yeah.
With the principals, and they too are talking about, okay, where are there areas of success? How can we learn from one another? How can we encourage our families to continue that communication, both in person, but then are there other things that we can do that maybe because of a family's work schedule or something else that hinders them from being part of that parent-teacher conferences? Can we do that virtually? Can we do that by the phone? So again, it's the conversations that really this data is causing us to have across the system, which is very powerful, so that the next time when we talk about this data, hopefully we can see some nice increases in those different percentages and the difference between the fall and the spring.
Thank you.
Rupak?
Dr. Gross, I know that for the past couple of years or a couple of years ago, because of just responding to this trend of data in the spring, some of our middle schools particularly intentionally started doing like intentional parent phone calls at home as another way to touch point and let parents know of their student progress. And like that was structured to the point whereas every student, we did that and dedicated time for staff to do that. Would that be captured in this data? So this data might not be reflective of all the other efforts that we put in for interaction with parents as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is just a count of or a percentage of the families who attended during our our conference evenings. It does not include any of the other communications either by email, phone call, or another format.
Okay, other questions or comments on this? Are we ready for, I think we're ready for the roll call. Anne Marie?
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Ollenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes, motion passes 9-0. Okay, and next up on our agenda, business item C. This is memo 102, and that comes to you from me. Hopefully you were able to read this memo ahead of time so you know what the changes are that are coming our way. There's 3 different recommendations in here. I think it makes the most sense for us to take each one at a time. So as you can see in this memo that Dr. Gandhi has informed us that his personal schedule in June 2025 requires a lot of days outside of the district. And so because of that, he's actually requesting to move his resignation date up to June 5th, and this will allow him to have that travel time and personal time with his family. So I'm going to ask right now for a recommendation, for a motion for recommendation number 1, please. Robin.
I move that we accept the resignation of Superintendent Rupak Gandhi effective June 5th, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Robin and a second from Jason. Robin?
Yeah, I want to thank you, Dr. Gandhi. This was the right thing to do. You are, even though it's sooner than your contract expired, you could have easily hung on and collected pay and medical insurance, but this speaks to your integrity. So I am thankful that you were resigning earlier.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's do the roll call for this one.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Olenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Christensen, Meinier.
Yes, motion passes 9-0. So that takes us to this next recommendation, because as of June 5th, we won't have a superintendent starting June 6th. And so if you take a look at board policy EL2, we have a plan in place that if we do not have a superintendent in place, that we will now be asking, appointing, I guess, Bob Gross to take that position and step into that role. So I will look for another motion. Melissa?
Yes, I move that we appoint Dr. Robert Gross as the interim superintendent of Fargo Public Schools, June 6th, 2025 through June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Melissa and a second from Ally. Any questions or comments here? Yes, Dr. Gandhi?
Just again, want to express my gratitude to Dr. Gross and our entire cabinet team. Knowing that calendar school district fiscal years end on June 30th, every June is kind of a little bit of fun for Bob, Missy, and I as we try to figure out back to school admin stuff and then who's taking vacation when. My circumstances, as you mentioned in the previous motion, led me to, that's the only time I can be out in June, and flights weren't working. So this was a collaboration with Bob and Missy and looking at our schedules and our vacations to make sure that there's no gaps that are filled. And I'm just immensely grateful for Bob, Missy, and the entire team to be able to do that. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, let's do the roll call. Last chance.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Olenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Christensen, Meinier.
Yes, that motion passes 9-0. And then you can see there's a third recommendation on here, and I think this situation actually opens the door for a little more flexibility in what we do here in the district office. And so I am recommending that we approve for Dr. Steiner to have up to 8 paid work days with us in the month of June. So I will look for a motion for that. Kristen?
Approve providing Dr. Corey Steiner up to 8 working days in June 2025, compensated at a prorated daily rate of pay based on his July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026 salary.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Kristen and a second from Namal. Any conversation, discussion, questions about this? Yes, Ally.
Is there a reason that it would just be June? Because with Dr. Gandhi leaving on June 5th, is there any appetite or opportunity for a May time frame where they would be able to connect more? I know they've already been connecting, but
I would say that I think for us as a district, or when we were talking about this, Dr. Corey Steiner is still the superintendent of a different district. And so we felt that limiting it to June would try to avoid, there would be the most flexibility in that time for both districts with school being done and out of the way to work it in those, in that month.
I think that's fair. We did learn at our school board convention, though, to to bring in during that transition time during the meet and not necessarily wait till June. So I guess I would still potentially push for May, but if I'm alone in that sentiment, then I'm alone. So it's fine.
Greg?
I actually tend to agree. Even if we were to extend what this window of opportunity is, there's no guarantee that we would be taken up on that. And if we were to have one of those 8 days come earlier, I wouldn't have an issue with that. I don't expect it, but
Well, if you think back on our board training, if there is an idea that you would like to move forward, somebody could amend the motion.
I was just about to do
Okay.
that.
Greg?
I'd like to amend, I move that we amend the motion striking June and
How about just adding May? Just work days in May and June.
No, guys, he's doing a really great job.
Okay, sorry.
I want to strike June and insert or strike in June and have it say up to 8 workdays between now and June 30th, 2025.
Oh, I see what you're doing there. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor.
Second.
Okay, and a second from Ally. Any discussion about the change, the amendment? Yes.
Can you read that again, please?
Greg moved to amend the motion by striking in June and inserting between now and June 30th. So that motion, well, that's what you would be voting on, talking about right now, would be changing June 2025 to between now and June 30th.
And that still includes the up to.
Yeah, up to 8 days.
Yep, he's just taking out that June 2025 or suggesting removing June 2025 and saying now, between now and June 30th.
Okay, I'm actually in support of this because we do have a work session towards the end of May, so it would allow him to be paid for that time with us. Okay, so we're gonna vote on the amendment, right, on the change, and then we vote on the full motion?
Correct.
Okay.
And Ally seconded that, correct? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's vote on that.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Olenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson. I'm sorry, Christensen Meinier.
Yes. Motion passes 9-0. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to talk. Okay, good. All right, so now let's go back. So that change was accepted, the amendment was accepted, so now we're gonna go back and vote on the actual motion. Are we ready for that? Do we still want any discussion or conversation? Yeah, okay.
I was just going to say, I just again want to say thank you to Dr. Steiner to the level that his schedule has been allowing. He has been kind of just jumping in, and just as a parent in the school district, I'm just so excited to see his leadership, but also just his enthusiasm and what he's bringing to our staff. So I know that he is managing multiple responsibilities right now, but I just want our community to know that he as a leader has jumped right in and is asking all the right questions and learning, and it's been just a privilege to see where our district is headed to. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, are we ready to vote? Okay. Anne Marie, we're ready.
Robin Nelson,
Yes.
Olenberger,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Jason Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Nelson,
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes, motion passes 9-0. Okay. And now, item E under business is memo 99. And that comes to us from Tara. It's been added to the business section. So I'm first going to turn to Tara so that she can introduce it to us, and then we will look for motion, and then we can have discussion.
You have in front of you memo 99. Since the time I originally wrote memo number 99, the number of executive orders issued by President Trump has increased to 130. As I previously noted, many of the executive orders impact public education. Similarly, on August 8th, 2025, this board approved the execution of the Department of Education Title VI certification, which President Christensen Minear signed. Tonight, I'm advising the board to sunset and remove from its website the FPS philosophies. I'm advising the board to take this action in order to ensure continued compliance with federal executive orders. While I understand there are significant legal nuances related to these orders and they continue to be litigated in court, I'm advising the board to take this action based on the potential risk to the Fargo Public School District. Included in these risks is the potential for federal intervention from the Office of Civil Rights and the potential impact on federal funding. As a district, last year we received $19.7 million in federal funding. $15.2 million was for grants and $4.5 million was for student meals. The loss of these funds would have disastrous consequences on the district. A federal investigation regarding our operations would significantly interfere with district operations and our ultimate mission of educating and empowering all students. Although I'm advising the board to remove these philosophies, I would like to reassure both the board and the students, parents, and the communities of the Fargo Public School District that this district remains committed to creating a supportive, inclusive, and positive school climate for all students. Currently, district operations are governed by administrative policy. Included in these policies are protections allotted to all citizens by both federal and state law, including the protection against discrimination as written in both Title VII and Title IX. While the decision before you is not easy, the district remains committed to providing a safe and supportive learning environment to each student, regardless of their differences.
Okay, thank you, Tara. So I think the next best step here would be to have a motion, and then we can have discussion and conversation. Ally?
I move for the sunset of the district philosophies and for the removal of the district website.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Ally and a second from Jason. Do we have any conversation or discussion? Kristen?
Yep, thank you. I pulled this tonight because I believe we need to have this discussion, especially for the folks that came tonight. I fundamentally do not agree with pulling the philosophies from our website, but I understand the why. After a long discussion with Ms. Bradner, I know that our mission, vision, and values to educate, empower every student will not change. We still mean every student. I have no doubt that every person in our building will live these values by continuing to welcome our students into their school for who they authentically are. I understand, and in meeting with teachers, in meeting with the principals of the buildings that I work with, I know our kids are safe, and I know our values deep down and our administrative policies are there to protect them. I still fundamentally disagree with, sunsetting these philosophies because it does speak volumes to who we are and how we operate. But I understand the why.
Thank you, Kristen. Any other questions or comments? Nimal?
First and foremost, I just want to say thank you for coming. It showed that you guys are really paying attention of what's going on in our Fargo Public Schools. And then also too, it's not easy, to be able to discuss this. For me personally, when I looked at it, it kind of hurt a little bit, because I know that at the same time it can impact a lot of our students, but also too, it can also impact our funding. Being an individual from different country or from a different background, and just taking out what we stand for, what the district stand for, is not only personally affected me too as well, and I know that it can it can affect other students too as well. Miss Benner, I want to say thank you for bringing this discussion forward, and for also overseeing everything that are happening in our country. I know that it wasn't easy for you to write this, and but at the same time, sometimes we have to take what are the important pieces. We have to make the tough decision that are uncomfortable, at the same time. Especially for me, I know that this one can turn in the opposite directions of everything that I've seen since I first got elected. It can turn into race, which is sometimes it hurt. Especially for me, it hurt because when individual turn thing like this, like philosophy, into race is wrong. You know, it can affect children, it can affect communities, it can affect learning, it can affect so much. That of who we are. Like what we are as individual, as peoples, and it's not going to be an easy decision for me tonight, because even just me talking, you will not know where I'm heading yet. But it's an action that I know that it can affect our communities, our students. But at the same time, at the end of the day, we have to make the tough decision of who we are as people, as communities. And I know that for Fargo communities, you always stand together as a communities and as peoples. And I know that, any decision that we made tonight, don't look at it as a way to see us like we go against you or we are for you, but just know that we're making the right decision for our student. And don't look at it on the perspective of race, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal. Robin?
No matter what decision we make, it's going to create controversy. It's going to create controversy in our upcoming elections. It's going to create controversy for incoming superintendent. I'll stop there. I am confident that our staff are committed to make all students feel welcome with a sense of belonging. I would not support and not be so supportive of Fargo Public Schools if I did not experience that on a daily basis. There is nothing more important to me than students having a sense of belonging. So Tara, can you explain to us the practical application of the certification? Because you need to certify all of these fundings that come down, and what would happen if you said, yes, we comply, or no, we don't comply?
So at your last board meeting, you signed the Title VI certification. That was the first time I have ever seen a document like that. Essentially, that document was saying, we are in compliance with this, with Title VI, and we are in compliance with the Students for Fair Admission v. Harvard. I don't know what the Trump administration or President Trump believes compliance with Title VI or Students for Fair Admission v. Harvard means. But based on the rhetoric that's coming out of the Trump administration, it is my opinion that the philosophies are contrary to their belief that that is in compliance. That's why I'm recommending that they come down. When we receive grants, a lot of times those grants are saying in there, or they're referencing executive orders, or depending on what they're regarding. And so it's my biggest concern, not only with our federal funding, but with the implementation of these directions to OCR and the Department of Education, that our operations not be interrupted. Our obligation is to educate students. If we are spending time defending or looking into a lawsuit or an investigation, we're not focused on that. And I think we can still protect our students using the policies that we have in place, that have been in place. And those policies continue to be rooted in law.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Melissa?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I'm struggling with the most is like if you read Title VI and if you read the Harvard education decision, what they define as impermissible is giving somebody an advantage because of a protected class. And we at Fargo Public Schools never do that. We always protect every single student. So what's the most fearful to me is that I think we are already complying with these federal laws just by the way that we naturally treat students. I'm very torn because I too am very risk averse, but at the same time, I think we signed that and we approved President Christensen my near to sign that because we have complied and we are complying. So I guess I do also have a question of, do you, Ms. Bradner, have a sense that the administration is going to be defining compliance as something other than what the Harvard decision has indicated?
Yeah, so it's my opinion that the administration is defining Harvard differently than the Supreme Court defined Harvard. And their interpretation is going farther than what the court actually said. That's also my concern, and also the concern that you brought up, is that the way the Trump administration is interpreting the opinion of the court is expanded upon what it actually said. And so that is not a situation that I want to litigate on behalf of this district. I would prefer that that be elsewhere, and that we not get into that situation.
Greg, did you have a question or comment?
Why are we specifically talking about this group of philosophies and not in, I mean, are we also going to be directed to or advised to direct administration to change some administrative policies? Because the administrative policies are really kind of related and include even some of the same language. And so I'm wondering, like, are those as problematic, or are those also problematic, and like we need to address those presumably as quickly as we're being asked to address this?
That's a fair question. The philosophies are being brought to the Board of Education because you ultimately signed off on them. Administrative policies are run through administration, and the board ultimately, they agree to them, correct? But we provide the changes to them. The difference that I see here between this and the administrative policies is that the way the administrative policies are written is that they're written on the basis of the law as it is, and it protects all. Regardless of whether or not you agree, the 4 philosophies focus on specific areas. They do not focus on all. And that is the problem that I see with the information coming from the Trump administration, with them saying, if you place one group ahead of another. My concern is that those philosophies are the district saying we are focusing on that group. Now, whether or not that is the intent or that is what it actually does, I don't want the district to be in a position where it has a lawsuit or it has to go to OCR and it has to defend litigation instead of putting that and diverting that money to students. I think we can rely on our administrative policies, again, that have those protections. At this point in time, I have no intent of bringing administrative policies forward and asking for those changes. At this time, there have been no changes to the laws as written, unless, again, the legislature changes everything in 3 days.
Melissa?
Do you think this is something where we could kind of keep a close eye on the litigation? Because it seems to be changing daily. And if there's a definitive statement about what could be permissible, then we could reevaluate.
Absolutely. I don't think we're in a situation where we're saying these can never come back. I think my job as a lawyer and the lawyer for the school district is to advise you what's in your best interest. At this point in time, given our current climate at both the state and the federal level, I think this is something that we need to consider. As Robin earlier alluded to, there have been numerous bills before the North Dakota legislature that have addressed the Fargo Public School District. We need to find a way to ensure that we remain able to obtain all of our funding and to be able to work with our legislators at the both federal, state, and local level. And we can still protect our students and have those conversations.
Greg?
So if the difference between the philosophies and the administrative policies is that our philosophies are kind of narrowly tailored to, I don't know, let's say highlight certain areas, would expanding upon our philosophies to be more inclusive be something that allows us to retain our policies, but just kind of add on to them in a strategic manner, I guess?
I think that's something that we could work with administration to talk about. I do think we need to be very cognizant of the fact that a violation of the philosophies does not have a consequence. A violation of a district administrative policy can result in termination or discharge for cause. There are no repercussions for a violation of the policies or for the philosophies. I understand that they speak to who we are, and that is incredibly important. But we need to continue to focus on the administrative policies right now. Is it something that we could absolutely consider in developing with the incoming superintendent? Absolutely. But I would suggest if we're doing that process, that needs to go through a large community-driven discussion and not just put on cabinet or administration.
Yeah, I think that's a valid question, but it just makes me think like our mission is to educate and empower all students. So I think that's kind of what that would boil down to, if we were looking to make them more inclusive and broader of all students. I will also add to this that it's not an easy decision. This is not I do not like this with every ounce of my being. I don't like having this conversation. I've been in the schools a lot over the last 2.5 years and spent a lot of time in the schools even prior to being a board member because of my own children. And I have an incredibly high level of trust and respect for our teachers and the adults in those buildings. They pick amazing activities and materials that meet the needs of all of our learners. They provide and celebrate opportunities that really highlight the diverse strengths and backgrounds of our community. I think if we sunset these, they're going to keep doing the amazing job that they already do. Our administrative policies, 40-60, 50-60, and 60-60, they clearly prohibit discrimination and harassment based on race, color, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, national origin, disability, age, and other protected statuses. Those policies are in place. They do have teeth in them. If somebody violates them, we take that very, very seriously. I'm not okay risking $19 million. I'm not okay risking an investigation, an OCR investigation. Our district doesn't need that. If that comes to us, that is an extreme amount of time and energy, and the people in our district need to be focusing on our students and our staff. And so that's where I sit with this. I don't like it at all, but it's the position that we've been placed in. Do we have any other questions or comments on this motion?
Sure. Thank you. I really love what you said. What I'm worried about the most is I truly do not trust this administration. Let's just be honest with each other. I don't, because I don't know they can say one thing today, tomorrow is different. And at the same time, let's say we table this and we decided to go a different route. How would we guarantee that they're not going to come after us? Because that's what I'm worried about the most, because it doesn't matter which way.
Well, Namal, I mean, oh, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd like to move the previous question.
Okay, so we have a motion to move previous question, which ends the conversation and moves us back to the original motion. So basically what we're voting on right now is to end the discussion or to
I need a
continue
second.
this- Okay, sorry. Are we good? Sorry, I thought somebody said I need a second.
She needs a second.
Who?
I'll second.
Oh! Okay. I was like, who needs a minute?
Sorry, I need a
Somebody,
second for
you need a
previous question.
second.
Yeah, we need
Okay,
a
thank
second
you.
for previous question
Robin
to-
moved previous question. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion from Robin and a second from Ally, and now we go immediately into the vote, right? So a yes vote ends the,
Yeah, I was going to clarify. This vote is to end debate.
Correct.
It is not a vote on the motion.
yeah. So a yes vote ends the discussion and we go straight into voting on the motion. A no vote allows the discussion to continue. Okay, are we ready?
Voting on previous question. Olenberger.
Yes.
Berklin.
Yes.
Clark.
No.
Day.
No, because my question was
Gullickson.
not answered. Yes.
Jason Nelson.
Yes.
Kristen Nelson.
Yes.
Robin Nelson.
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes. So that was
7-2.
7-2. Okay, motion passes 7-2. So now we are back to the original motion, which is to approve sunsetting the district philosophies and the removal from the district website.
Berklin.
Yes.
Clark.
No.
Day.
Yes.
Gullickson.
Yes.
Jason Nelson.
Yes.
Kristen Nelson.
No.
Robin Nelson.
Yes.
Olenberger.
Yes.
Christensen Meinier.
Yes. Okay, so that also passes 7-2.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. We have now moved on to our board reports. So let's go ahead and start with Kristen Nelson. Do you feel ready to start?
I am ready to start.
Okay.
Other than reaching out to state legislators about governmental affairs things, nothing to report.
Okay, Melissa.
Yeah, I'm going to just give a brief update about how negotiations has been going. We've met twice. Last week, we exchanged topics. So the topics that both the FEA and the board hope to address during our negotiation season. And we actually even started working on some of those topics. We got mostly through editorials. These are technically just clerical changes to the contract. And then we started working on leave issues, both with how the parental leave bank functions, how leave is requested and granted at building levels. I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to clean up a process that wasn't really doing anyone any good, and putting it more in the hands of our building administration, who have a very clear hand on who needs to be in and who needs to be out, and how that will make their building function. So overall, I feel really positive about negotiations. The FEA chair, Jim Erlacher, has been really wonderful to work with. We've been really collaborative. I feel like everybody's listening. So just full of gratitude for how things are going so far. So thank you. And then we do have a committee meeting this Friday at noon, and we're sitting down with the FEA tomorrow evening.
Thank you, Melissa. Greg?
Aside from attending committee meetings, I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Robin?
You've had plenty of reports from me. Thank you for your patience as I was on funeral leave, but think we have everybody updated.
Okay, great. Thank you. Nikki?
Thank you. Committee meetings, and then I also attended the April 16th NDSBA Brunch and Learn, which was focused on CTE. Wade Sick presented, and then I've also canceled the upcoming, or the April's CEA meeting, because we really could use it for negotiations time and we didn't have anything pressing, so
Okay.
nothing for CEA.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Namal?
Just attending the committee meetings, and then I get to finally visit the Dakota High School. I did the tour. It's so amazing. So many things that Principal David does. I don't know where to start. It's just there's just so many things that they actually do. I wasn't sure where am I heading, but it was the tour was I can't go into detail, but it will take us all night, so which we don't want to do. But all I can say is that is the experience is I wasn't expecting it, but it was just incredible, because of we have so many incredible students who have so many different classes, and they just incredibly so talented, like just switching from different student with different subject. And I didn't know that happened, at Dakota High School, but itself was just so incredible for me. And then I also attended FPS Foundation meetings. It was fun. I get to have my neighbor over here with me. It was really fun. And then I get to go to Brunch and Learn. Actually, you didn't know that I was there too. On that one for CTE. It was really fun. So thank you.
Thank you. Jason?
Nothing to report outside committee meetings.
Thank you. Ally?
Yes, so tomorrow is the dedication for the former principal, Kathy Stigman at Longfellow, so I will not be in attendance at negotiations to be able to attend that. So thank you for excusing my absence there. It's really important for me to be able to attend that. And the only other thing that I have to report is I had the opportunity to attend the meeting put on by Athletic Director Todd Olson about the North-South Hockey Potential Co-op. Have been fielding quite a few different questions around that, and we'll be moving those to bring those concerns to Dr. Gandhi, as I had the opportunity to meet with him today around that as well. So that's it. Thank you.
I guess you're not officially the hockey liaison, but you kind of are.
I mean, it's like my two boards like overlap each other, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be there.
All right. Thank you. Okay, and so for my report this evening, I'll share that I did see the play that goes wrong at South. Super funny, amazing, so good, so much talent. Totally worth my afternoon there. And then also in terms of governance, we met on Monday, April 14th. Quite a few of the items that we discussed ended up on today's agenda, so you should be very familiar with those. We also dove a little bit more into the upcoming work session in May, and I will be connecting with Jackie Gapp and Anne Marie and Tara, and I think Robin might be involved in that conversation too. Since we're finally getting to the close of legislative session, we'll actually know what we can talk about at that meeting. So we kind of need them to wrap things up so that we can figure out our agenda and our plan. At governance, we also talked a little bit about our memberships with NDSBA, NatCon membership. There's kind of this other National School Board Association, COSBA. We didn't make any decisions, but we're going to seek more information on that. So there might be some information coming out related to those groups. And then next, we don't need the executive session, correct?
No, we don't.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cross that off. And then our next meeting will be May 13th. Right now it is 6:58 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.